My next guest is a welterweight contender from San Francisco, California. His name is Noah Ansari-Jung, and he joins me right now. Bam, right to it. Noah, welcome. You are the May Amateur Fighter of the Month, the very first one I've ever done. So we're making
Thank you for
history, my
having
man.
me. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be the inaugural interview.
Well, Noah, I want to hit on your career to date. You have a record, an amateur record of 3-1. And when I think of somebody with that amount of experience already, you're talking about 4 fights. Like that's a big deal in the amateur world. I often talk to people that are making their very first walk to the cage, and I want to start there. When you did this for the very first time, it wasn't that long ago. It should be relatively fresh in your memory. When you made that walk to the MMA cage for the very first time, walk me through that experience. What was that like for you? Like, what do you recall from that episode?
Sure. Well, I walked in and I think I had been 18 for like 4 months. Like I was just turned 18. I was, pretty ready to go. I wanted to compete. I knew that MMA was something that it's one of the reasons I got into the gym originally. And I started training a little before COVID. And then when COVID happened, I'd only been training for like 9 months, but once I missed it, I realized, oh my God, like this is something I need to be doing all the time. And so when I got back, when our gym opened up, I got back there, immediately started training. And 7, 8 months later, I got offered a fight. And my coach really didn't want me to take it. But we looked at it. We looked at them. I convinced them. I work at the gym as well. I teach kids classes, and I was like, dude, I gotta try it. And so got in there, and it was really different because my head coach and instructor Mickey Riggs is a fourth degree black belt in our Ralph Gracie, and has coached a lot of fighters from Bellator to Strikeforce. But it was like seeing that different side of it was definitely really, really interesting, and being able to make that walk, get in there, it's one of the harder things I've ever done. It's not easy, it's hard, but the training for it is so much harder. The camp is so much harder than the actual fight. Like it was a minute and 30 seconds. But being able to prove to myself that I can get out there and I can do that. I can walk out, I can get in a cage, and I can fight a guy who had 2 felonies by the time I got him in there. Was an interesting experience, being able to just go through there and put that on, and seeing how many people came and supported and actually cared. It's something it's one of the, I'm gonna do this the rest of my life. Like this is, whether in some capacity, whether it's coaching, whether it's fighting until my body doesn't work anymore. This is I'm stuck here.
MMA, I feel like, is such a mental game, truly, and trying to prepare yourself psychologically for
Oh
the
yeah.
bouts. That's something that I still don't understand, and that's obviously because I'm not a fighter, so I don't think I ever will. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, you've made this walk 4 different times now. Does it get easier to prepare for it mentally, kind of knowing that you've kind of already been there and done that?
It makes it a lot easier. It's like being able to it less so in the preparation. The preparation gets harder and harder just because you realize that you have a standard to live up to, not just that other people set, but that you set. Like when I go out there and I finish a guy in a minute and 30, my job is to finish someone better and faster. It's my job is to put on a better performance, to show my skill set better, and to compete at a higher level. And so the training only gets harder, but the actual walk to the cage, it it stops phasing you. The warm up in the back, the nerves go away once you get used to it. And you just have to really be comfortable with, this is what's going to happen, and you're going to go out there and you're going to fight a guy in a cage half naked in front of anywhere from 20 people to 1,000 people, and much bigger on the world stage. But you're going to do it, and you're going to win, and it's going to be a great time.
9 minutes, that's not a lot of time. Whether it feels like a long time when you're in there or if it goes by in a blink of an eye, maybe the answer is yes to both of those, depending on the
It,
fight.
it it is yes to both. It feels like an hour, and then by the time it's done, you have no idea. You're still ready to fight. You're like, what the fuck just happened? Like,
And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, 9 minutes, like for me, especially when I'm watching amateur fights, to me, they go by really quick. It's just bam, bam, bam. They're in and out of there. But what people don't see are the thousands of hours of work it takes to get yourself, to get your body ready, to refine your techniques. There's a lot of things that are happening that people don't see unless they're doing the work alongside you day in and day out. And when you are competing, even as an amateur fighter, you have to live like a completely different lifestyle than I think your typical 20, 21-year old. Can you tell
It's
me
completely
like what is like a regular day in the life like for you, whether even when you're out of camp, like what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I never really stopped training. I am what I am fondly called a gym rat, simply because the joke is that I live there because I just leave my shit there. So I've got like all my gloves, my shin pads. I've got like four gis that are just taking up the changing room. My boss is always on my ass about. But I've got like I'll get up. I have the liberty of being able to sleep in a little bit because I'll be there so late. So I'll get up at like 8, eat breakfast, walk to the gym, get there, yeah, get a coffee, get there probably about 10. It's not that far away, but I meander. I'm a fond listener of audiobooks, so I'll lose my way a little bit. I'll get there and train till about like 1:30. So get there 10:30, train till like 1:30. I'll teach the kids classes. I'll teach privates for kids from like 2 until 5:15, and then starting at 5:15, I'll train until probably about 9 o'clock at night, and then I'll go home. So I have no time for anything else, really. And then I work weekends, so I'm working during the day, in between training sessions, and then the second the weekend starts, I work at a wedding venue, so I'll be there from like 1 p.m. till like 3 a.m. So I'm like, a life is a constant revolving door of getting in the training room, getting out of the training room, rushing to go put on dress shirt and clothes, and like run into work.
Talk to me, a little bit about your gym. This is what's so vital is who are your coaches, who are the teammates that are working with you, like who are you like putting yourself up against in the
Of
training
course.
room day in and day out. I feel like that's so vital. Tell me about how you ended up at your gym and kind of what's the atmosphere like there.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with I train at Marin MMA, which is Marin Mixed Martial Arts. It's we're in San Anselmo, California. I started training when I was 15. My friend Karsten McKillop, who's a kickboxer in Oregon now, he actually had was supposed to have his first MMA fight, but opponents keep pulling out because he's a good ass kickboxer. He brought me into the gym originally because my father died when I was 15. He had esophageal cancer, and so don't smoke, kids. um he like realized like a few days afterwards, like down in the dumps, life's going pretty hard. He's like, "Do you want to punch things?" It's like, yeah, I want to punch things.
Yeah.
So he brought me into the gym, and immediately I loved it. It was like, I think I really loved him. Like, I got hit in the face, and I was like, "Man, this is okay. Like, this isn't a problem. Awesome. Like, this will be great." And so I started training, and then of course COVID happened and everything. But once I came back, I've been back for like actively training for about 3 years now. And when I got back, it just drove right in. So full time for since like late 2020. So it's really been a long time. But I'm training under Mikio Riggs, also known as Mikio Zinho, who is a fourth degree black belt under Ralph Gracie. Who was Ralph's first blue or first purple belt. And he's one, as like I said earlier, he's been training fighters for a long time. He had fighters in Bellator, he had fighters in Strikeforce, but we're kind of at a turning point in the gym where we don't have a lot of, like, I think I'm the only active MMA fighter that we have. We have a lot of jiu-jitsu competitors, but we're not really a fight gym anymore. But as I came in, I'm kind of spearheading the way for that. We've got more people that want to make their amateur debut. We've got people who are trying to transition into it, and trying to transition from jiu-jitsu or from kickboxing into it. And so I'm training with a lot of people that are like are hungry for their first taste of it, and a lot of older established people. I want to say older, I mean like in their 30s. I just turned 20, so my view is a little different. But we've got people who, like, a lot of our black belts competed in MMA when they were my age, and so I've got a standard to live up to with them, and I'm trying to be that hungry kid that's trying to take their ass out while they're ripping me in two pieces every morning. But I've got a good I've got good levels on both sides where I got people that are hungry and trying to come for my ass because I'm the one spearheading, and they're like, oh, he's captain competition team. I'm gonna kick his ass. Like I'm gonna prove that I'm the best. And then I'm trying to do that to our retired fighters who are like, I'm trying to sleep. Like, please stop.
4 bouts into your amateur career thus far, like when you like reflect back on the journey thus far, like as a whole, like what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
I think some of the biggest lessons is that specifically I need to trust in myself more.
Mm.
And like that's like in my second fight, I lost the fight. It was a decision. I started winning by the end. Like I dominantly won the third round, but I didn't trust in my striking ability to stand up with a kickboxer. And I kept trying to take someone down who'd only drilled takedown defense and only drilled that kind of stuff, and like anti-grappling. And I really like I learned that fight, and specifically in that loss, that like I need to trust in myself, because in that third round I hurt him with the hands, I hurt him with the striking, and I realized that me doubting my own skill set and me like not taking a biased look at it, where instead of being like, I'm the best kickboxer ever, but like not having any confidence in my striking skill set, or as much confidence as I should have in my own skill set, is a detriment to me. And while I'm not the best grappler in the world, I'm not the best striker in the world, I need to be confident enough, and I am now, that I'm still going to kick somebody's ass when I'm in there. And I have those skill sets, and I have to use them.
Well, I definitely want to hit on your most recent bout. It was at SFC Xtreme 10. That was in February of 2023. And it was a notable achievement for you because you got the first knockout finish of your
Yeah, it
career
didn't
in that
shoot a
bout.
takedown, I will say. Didn't That's what I was more proud of, is I got in there, my instinct wasn't immediately to shoot. Which, if you've seen my other fights, that's what I do.
Well, talk to me about it. Can you walk me through Brandon Silva? How did that bout come together? Like as you were preparing for an opponent like that, sometimes
Yeah.
it's tricky because there might not be a lot of information to go off of. How did you
Well,
prepare for that?
originally I had a different opponent. I had 6 weeks notice, which is, I love me a fight camp. I like, if I get offered fights like the week of all the time, that's not something I'm able to do. Like, I'm always in shape. I'm really small welterweight. I walk in at 166 pounds. Like,
Mhm.
I don't cut weight at all, but I need to get ready. Like, it's a different level of conditioning. It's a different level of thing. I'm not like, I can't walk in on Saturday and fight a guy. Like, I need notice, and I will kick that guy's ass. I just give me like 5 weeks. I can sell you more tickets that way.
Sure.
But with I had 6 weeks notice. I was training for a guy that was just a little shorter than me. So there was a guy that was like 6'1" kickboxer, with he had a knockout over the guy that had beat me. So I was ready. I was prepping for him, drilling all the stuff, and then I checked Tapology, and my opponent wasn't the same opponent, and I was like, oh fuck. So I called my promoter, and I was like, "What? Hey, what happened there, dude?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, he got an injury. Like, don't worry about it. Here's the new guy." And so with 2 weeks, I was like looking up. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I found he had like 16 street beefs boxing fights. So like, did he win all of them? No. Did he compete a hell of a lot? Yeah. And so I was able to like watch some of those, and I have training partners that are around his size. I wasn't expecting him to be as heavy as he was, because he weighed in at 172 pounds, but they announced him saying that he was a lightweight. He wasn't. He weighed 6 pounds more than I did, but which I'm very, very stingy about that. Don't miss weight.
Yeah, don't miss
But
it. Be a pro.
yeah,
I get it.
exactly. So it was like I had to switch everything that I drilled in that camp totally, because I was drilling like high kick setups from takedowns. And so like there's a moment in that fight where I threw a head kick at him and I fell over because I was aiming for somebody 6'1", not 5'6". So it's yeah, it was interesting to be able to like understand, like, it's difficult to fight someone on short notice, not like, especially when you were training for someone else, because it's styles make fights. It's
Sure.
like, people say it all the time, and when you fight someone that isn't going to stay on the outside, and they're just coming forward, throwing overhands and throwing hooks to the body, like it's a way different fight than it will be if you're fighting someone who's a little bit longer, a little more technical. And so I got to learn a lot that like I can, number one, I knew I could take a punch already, but I learned that I could take several and a few uh yeah, good shots, but then also being able to not have to rely on my grappling base. And I am not in any means the best striker. I was very disappointed in myself actually, because I was like, man, why does my jab look like that? Like why am I fighting him like I am his height? Like I'm 6'3". Like this is a problem.
Right.
And so like I take a very honest look at myself. I'm a little hard on myself and my own performances simply because like there's no harsher critic than myself, and I have standards that I have to live up to. And so, but I was happy that I didn't have to resort to my grappling. I am a long-winded person. I apologize. I talk a lot.
Don't be. I think it's I think you're just being cerebral and you're hitting on something that I think is so critical. When I think about amateur MMA, it's about locking down your fundamentals and really testing yourself and really trying to like get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I know that sounds
Exactly.
cliche, but it's really true.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you have to take tough fights as an amateur. You have to be able to identify where your deficiencies are and get ready for that, because at the next level, like there's no reset button. You have one chance at a clean slate, and that's it. And the time to find out that you're not proficient in an area is when you're an amateur, not when you're a pro. That you
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to find out something. You don't want to find out you have a massive hole in your game when you're in the when you're at that pro level. No bueno.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely, you want to be able to figure out everything that you need to know as an amateur. And that's one of the reasons why like I am not an advocate for a short amateur career. I would prefer like my goal has always been to get to 10 fights and then like see what I can do from there. Because if it's 10 fights and I'm, let's say I go 3-7, right? Then I know that this is not like then I can't do this without like irreparably changing my life in a horrible way.
Mm-hmm.
And then that means that like I love this sport. That means that I'm going to transition to coaching or transition to something else. But if I go 9-1, that means that I know that I have or something similar to that, I have a future in this and that I can keep pursuing this. And so I keep a very honest interpretation of what this is, because this is a combat sport. The damage is high. Like you have to be ready to take what comes with that, but you have to understand the like you can't fall into the sunk cost fallacy, right? Like if I get 10 fights in and I'm like, no, I can keep going even though I'm, I've been knocked out 8 times. Like you
May
need to
not be for you.
exactly, right? And maybe competing isn't for you, right? Or maybe MMA specifically, right? Like you can try jujitsu, you can try kickboxing. But so that's just something that it's like I keep a very honest look at it. And I've done this walk 4 times. I'm supposed to have a fifth one coming up, and it's something that I really and truly love. But you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to figure out what you got to learn now when you aren't standing in front of 50,000 people and they're elbowing you in the face. Like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of like leads me to my next question. Sometimes I'll see these like really young guys that are barely older than you, 21, 22 years old, and they're competing at a very high level. And they do well on that local circuit or in that regional circuit. Then all of a sudden they find themselves in a big Bellator fight or a UFC fight,
yeah,
and the outcome isn't quite what it was, or they are not achieving that same level of success. And there are some fighters, I'm not going to say who they are, but we all know who they are. They're 25, 26 years old on a 3, 4 fight losing streak in the UFC, and like they're almost washed out of the game before they even hit their athletic prime. And is that something
yeah.
that you look at and like, oh
It
geez,
is. It is. And I've always, I keep a tab on local promotions, like not just amateur promotions, but professional promotions, simply because I know that like when I get there, if I take the leap and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna go, professional career, it's not about money. It's about like you can like, of course, the world is about money, but like this sport isn't about money. The sport is about making a name for yourself and leaving a lasting mark. And if my lasting mark is to be the washed up 25-year-old in the UFC, that's not what I want. I'd much rather join the UFC at a later date and be proficient and be able to go through there with like if I have 20 fights outside of the UFC before they sign me, then I know that I'm going to be the best fighter that I can be when I get in there. And there is a point where you have to bite the bullet and get in there, but that isn't when you're 3-0 and you're like, people are like, oh, he's a prodigy, get him in there. Like, no, that's not, that's a detriment to yourself. And, I'm not saying in any way that I'm a prodigy, nowhere near that. But if they gave me a UFC contract when I'm like 3-0 as a professional, I'm not taking that. I'm not an idiot. Like I might get hit in the face, but I'm not that dumb.
No, I completely get it. And I think it's wise to be cerebral like that because not everybody is. I talk to a lot of fighters, and I can tell you with 1 million% certainty, there are other fighters that would look at that and be like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And there's me, that awkward media guy that's like, they're bringing you in for another. They're
You know you're
like,
ready to lose, right?
you're B-side, you know that, right? Like, this is
Yeah.
awkward. Do you know that? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh God. Oh no, the podcaster told you. Oh no, that's not
Like,
good.
I'm so sorry, man. Like, dude, that's rough.
It's rough, but it's a cautionary tale, and I think you're wise to take your time. Like, take your time, grow. Like, you're still a young guy. Like, you're gonna fill out, and we don't even know if welterweight's gonna be your class 3 or 4 years
I
from
mean,
now. You might be
I,
a middleweight.
yeah, I doubt like I'm the smallest in my family. Like I'm 6'3", but everyone else in my family is 6'5" or bigger. I don't know how. Like, I don't know what they feed those motherfuckers, but they just get big. And so it's at a point where like everyone else in my family, they're big, jacked, like huge dudes, and I am a linguine noodle. Like I am long and lanky and light. I don't like I once again I walked in my last fight at 166 pounds. Like, and I don't eat like a small amount. Like my food bill is probably more than my rent, but I don't understand. So if I could fill out, maybe stop being like a little twig, that'd be wonderful. I'll take that. Maybe middleweights for me, right? Something. I'd still be tall for the weight class, but we don't know where I'll end up. But I want to be ready for that. I don't want to be thrust into that prematurely.
You could be a flyweight cheat code. Just saying. Just
I'm just hey, Corey Sandhagen is gonna get a run for his money, right? I'm coming in there, bantamweight division. I'll have one leg. It'll be great.
yeah, the weight cut won't be an issue whatsoever. I'm sure you'll
No,
be fully functional, no issues whatsoever, no
only
dialysis
one,
needed.
only like jumping crosses because of the one leg. Like,
I think it's absolutely perfect. But I wanted to hit on one kind of broader question for you, and it's simply this: for your fight resume thus far, what has been like the most memorable fight of your career so far?
my loss, my I lost to a really nice dude. Like we talked for a long time. We still text each other. His name's Jacob Fiend. He's another fighter. I don't know if he fights anymore, which is unfortunate. We were around the same age. He got knocked out pretty quick in his last fight, so I hope he's recovering pretty well. But like I learned so much from that. Not only in like I walked in, undefeated, 1-0, but still undefeated with like a 2-month turnaround for my fight. I was, I went in there, I doubted myself, and I lost. But after that, like I looked around and I looked at who was with me. No one cared.
Mhm.
Like no, like my coach gave a shit, but not in a like, oh, stop training here. In a like, dude, why aren't like you need to believe in yourself. Like you need to get in there and you need to trust what you're doing and trust in yourself. And like nobody dropped me, nobody left me, nobody cared. Everyone just cared that I was okay and that I wasn't like doddering on the side, drooling from the mouth. So I realized that like my support system is excellent. Like I have a family that loves me. I have a wonderful girlfriend that loves me. Who she training longer than I have. She's been training since she was 4. So she you know folds me like a pair of pajamas when we train gi. So like I've got a wonderful family and a wonderful support system. My coaches are amazing. I call Mikio my jujitsu dad because he's like I see him more than I probably see anyone else in my life. Um, but like my support system is amazing, and it doesn't matter what happens in this career. I know that my family, both biological and chosen, isn't going to change.
What is the biggest thing that, if there's like one piece of advice that you would give any young person that's like just thinking about doing what it is that you do? Like, what are some of the key things that they should consider before they even try their hand at making the walk like you have?
Um, Number one, I would say just get your way to a gym. Like it doesn't matter if it's a Gracie Baja, a UFC gym, if it's a big chain or a tiny mom and pop gym, you just need to start training and you'll learn really fast if it's something you want to do because it is a different style. It is not the flow roll, like let's smoke a joint, listen to some Rasta and roll, which I'm a fan of Rasta music. I will roll with you while we're prepping for a fight with Rasta music, but it's more of a, I, it doesn't matter if my technique is good. It matters if I win. And
Mm.
that is a different mentality. And if you come from a competitive background, that's amazing. If you don't, then you need to test yourself in the gym and at local tournaments when like jujitsu and kickboxing first. And then when you're ready, you won't know, your coaches will.
Mm.
Listen to the people that actually know what they're doing. Like I probably shouldn't have taken my first fight. Like I was, 8 months back into training since COVID. Like I definitely shouldn't have taken that fight. I'm lucky to have won, and I'm lucky to have come out in one piece. But I should have listened to my coaches, and that's something that I try and do every day. I have amazing coaches, both in my head coach Mikio, in my and other coaches like Andy Miranda or Antone, who I have no idea what his last name is, but if there was a guy doing Dukes of Hazard stuff, like if there was a San Francisco cop doing Dukes of Hazard stuff, that is Antone. He's real life John Wick. Man, it's terrifying. Like Alex Rifkin, like all the black belts at our gym, all the amazing kickboxers, Isaac Lapry, buy Lapry ice cream. Those guys are all amazing coaches, and I wouldn't be here without them. And I need to listen to them, and so do you. You need to listen to your coaches.
Perfect. Well, final question for you. I'm gonna throw kind of a curveball at you, just a little bit. For you, we're midway through 2023, pretty much. It's almost June here. What are some of the things that you have teed up for the rest of the year? Maybe not so much fight wise, but like, do you have other goals that you're trying to hit that may or may not be related to like, actual
Sure.
fighting in the cage?
Yeah. Um, yeah, not fight related. I want to I like support some of my gym members more just because we've got a lot of people who are, not just like prepping for fights, but like we have a lot of people who, people around my age, they're graduating from college, they're getting ready for uh or they're graduating from high school, they're getting ready for like big life changes and just being there for like, I don't see anybody else more like than the people in the gym and being able to support them with what they're doing. Like one of my training partners just got she's now a reverend,
Oh,
so
wow.
like that's an amazing
Sure.
step, and being able to support them, congratulations Charlotte, and being able to, well, like support my girlfriend who just finished her first year of college and support my own academic success. As much as I'm not a fan of college, I do have to do it, so do that, but just be present in the moment with other people, not so absorbed with anything else.
And when can we expect to see you? Yeah, I'd be a terrible MMA podcasting host if I didn't ask you this question. When can we expect to see you in the cage in 2023 yet again?
I want to get two more fights this year. I'm supposed to fight June 24th, but I don't have an opponent. They keep pulling out, which is unfortunate. And if I don't get one relatively soon, I'll probably wait until sometime in August or September. But you'll see me two more times this year.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to hearing it, and I'm going to turn it over to you. We talked about a lot of people in your gym. I think you've already thanked them all, but if there's anyone that we're missing,
I told you I'm long-winded.
let's knock
I
it out
talk a
now.
lot. Um, yeah, just everyone in Marin MMA, everyone from NCFA or anywhere else that I've trained or I've stopped by and said hi and you've given me a role. Ava Wilson, my wonderful girlfriend, Max Wilson, her older brother, who beat my ass earlier this morning. Thank you guys. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for just being along for the ride.
Well, Noah, thank you for spending your afternoon with me. This was a real treat for me, and I hope that we can do it again in the near future, my friend.
Be my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and go Mom's Basement as MMA.